All right. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. This is a season 4 recap video from your boy Turgon the Wise. And it was a good season. Just to give you a little bit of a server-wide context, as you can see here, all evil has been practically vanquished from the field. There's very few places left where evil has any kind of a foothold. They took back Minheria today. Isengard had that the other day. They took however you say that, Ifil Dwath. They took that. Um, we are currently allowing, or some of us are allowing, evil to try to take back certain capitals so they get season rewards because that is a gentlemanly, sportsmanlike thing to do. And they are over at Barad-dûr. And where's the other one? I guess they were going for Isengard, I think. Yeah, they're here as well. So perhaps they'll get them back. We'll see. Um, but we stomped them, and it was a good season. If you come over here and you look at the target, currently ranked 14th in contribution on the server, which I'm pretty proud of. My boy Swalisi, holler out to him. He's second place. Just absolutely monster season. Um, I'll take 14th happily. It's pretty close. Might actually make it up another spot or two before the end. We'll see. Not a whole lot to hit, so it's tough, but we did it. And I mean, really, the server was an easy server. The distribution of light side to dark side players was unequal, so a lot of dark side quit, and those who stayed, you know, not really. There wasn't a lot of quality dark side players. A couple of guys that we went toe to toe with all the time. Um, like Sting and Mithrandir were two of our favorite targets throughout the season, and the great Sting, who loves to path around and path and path and path until he gets the matchup that he wants. Won't fight you until he thinks he's gonna win, and then he'll, give you an earful and the world chat about it. It was a pleasure to uproot him the other day. Um, Gotta hand it to him though. He is a heck of a pather, and he has a pretty nasty grima. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we want to talk about, commanders. That's what really I want to focus on. And just to talk through how my roster evolved through the course of the season. If you watch one of my earlier videos from just prior to the season, just about a 40-minute video of my top 10 commanders. And so this video is kind of a follow-up to that. Um, I don't have really 10 commanders that I could even use at this point in the season. So for Gandalf the Grey, I just want to walk you through, a couple of them first. Gandalf the Grey obviously is my top commander. I made it through the entire season without a single level 50 commander. That's literally how easy it was to beat evil. It wasn't really needed, so I didn't push for it. There was a lot of time that I could have spent mock battling or maybe sweeping more mobs, and I just didn't. So we won, and we won easily, so I'm not really worried about it. But he was my top commander this season. Just absolutely shredded a lot of stuff, and just to give you kind of an example of what kind of a season he had, he could do a lot of damage. Here's a really lopsided report here. You can see the distribution of damage. This is a rare report where the sharpshooters outdamaged the March Wardens. That's probably because the opponent was dead before we could reach the later stages of a battle. Later stages of the battle, over time, the March Warden damage catches up to the sharpshooters and eventually even overtakes it. And this last report here, I think, somewhat exemplifies that. Yeah, you can see now here's March Warden damage a little bit more. But I really like this setup with Gandalf pitching. I won't go over 3,000. So here's like where he was fresh. 3,000 sharpshooters is enough. It's going to pack a really nasty wallop first 2 rounds of any battle. And then 1450, I would make that 1500 I'm not shooters, March Wardens if I was level 50, but I'm level 49, so I have 1450 March Wardens, and that's a good amount. And then 750 cataphracts just to have a tank up front. I could lower it to 700 and boost that March Warden up, but it's really not going to make too much of a difference. I like having the beef up front so that then he's viable for multiple engagements. He's got those tanks that survive. That's what makes him so tough to kill. So I'm really liking the Gandalf with that unit configuration. And then in terms of gear, his gear hasn't changed since I left Bag End. I did exactly what I said I was going to do this season, and it worked out really well. It's kind of an odd gearing for Gandalf, I admit. Putting him basically with the scale mail that gives Commander might, and then giving him the Arnor cask with essentially with stun immunity first 2 rounds, close to 100%. We'll get there. Yeah, I think I need 2 more of those things in order to do it. Worked really well with the Elven Dirk, plus 9% ranged damage, and then here another 9% ranged damage. So if you're wondering, yeah, I jacked up my range damage big time with my gear on Gandalf the Grey, and then you throw in on top of that that the commander himself has 210 might that buffs the army damage by another 10.5%. So yeah, he puts out some serious damage. He's still got 360 focus, so he can still take the damage. And then from a skill perspective, this is what I did with them. I kind of opted to put those last extra couple points that you can do whatever with into the gray to see if I can get a little bit more extra healing out of him. And I think that that's okay. Um, Previously, if you watch my other video before the season, I was telling about I was putting those points in Wizard to jack up the negative defense. Um, but I decided to go with the gray instead. And I think I like it better this way because the units are doing the damage. He's doing so much damage already. The difference in that negative defense for 3 rounds compared to extra healing over the course of the entire battle. I don't know. I think it's just smarter this way. I like it better this way. He's going to do a little bit extra healing because essentially the gray kicks in anytime after the commander deals damage. So that's all throughout the battle, and he's recovering a quarter of the health each time he attacks for 1 unit. So I don't know. I like that. I think it's pretty good. I mean, I'm not seeing any tremendously huge healing numbers from him. Let's go back to these reports over here, and you can take a look. Healing wise, like this one, 900 healing, but there wasn't really much. This was over very. If this is a fast battle, it was cleaning up what was left from previous battle. And this one you see about 4,500. Only received 30,000 damage, so you're healing 4,500. That's roughly 1/6 of the damage being healed. A little bit less than 1/6. It would be 5,000. Would be 1/6. Then we come to the last one here. Again, I mean, he only received 3,000 damage. So let's see if there's any other examples I can draw upon. I got some mobs. There's one more with Gorebag. So here you see I received 45,000 and he healed about 3,500. So it's less than 10%. It's like 8%, 7%, something like that. If you divided, 45,500 by 3,400, it would be somewhere around 7 or 8%, I think. So like from a distribution standpoint, not like a whole lot of healing occurred here. But I did also massacre this guy probably in a crazy amount of time. Because you can see again, the sharpshooters outdamaged the March Wardens. So if I had to guess, this battle probably only went 3 or 4 rounds tops. So it might not be representative. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of talk through how I think of and and analyze different reports for my Gandalf because um, my Gandalf's a fucking monster. Does some serious work. He solos 200 tiles like they're easy. Like I think either depending on what comms I draw from the tile, I can take a 200 tile with no losses with this Gandalf build. None, zero. Like you can take a 200 tile and you still have a fresh 100% full army. It's glorious. But it doesn't happen often. And like I said, it is specific commanders that he has to draw. If you come up against the Fat Man, the ranged dude who does a whole bunch of burn damage, he's gonna hurt you somehow a little bit, you know. And there's a couple other comps too, that you run across, like a Witch King or something like that. Although Gandalf slaughters Witch King, but there's other ones that they'll do a little bit of damage to you. The second commander I want to talk through is Aragorn, and similar to Gandalf, I have not changed him a lick really since last time I was in Bag End. The only thing that really changed on Gandalf is that I added in an extra gold star to his superior hauberk mid-season this season, which is nice. It boosted his fire, the burn damage received from -20% to -30%, which is outstanding. Which coupled with this full helm gave my knights over 90% burn damage mitigation, um, and then 60% focus and poison damage mitigation as well. If you factor in the -8.6% from his focus score on top of the 90%, knights were mitigating roughly 98.6% of all burn damage. So if a commander is trying to do, take advantage of burn damage, let's say they do 300% burn damage versus my knights, they're only doing like 200% burn damage. So he burn damage don't do nothing to him, and he does a massive amount of damage from a commander perspective. I'll share that with you in a moment. Here's the build in terms of the skills. I put the third extra point, for level 46. I put it in hidden air, so it does a little bit more damage during combat. I gotta have 1 point in Sun, Moon, Splendor so that you get stun immunity on for your men. And then you go with Strider for the base stats, Precise Blow and Raid, huge damaging abilities. Call the Weak, weapons expertise, and Anduril, huge weapon damaging abilities. Um, Now someday, if my Aragorn's like reputation level is 10, let's say I someday get him up to 25, I get an extra 15 points here. They're all going in hidden air, and if I have another 4 points on top of that, so I get 15 plus that's 12. That'll get me 3 points left over if I was R25, plus 4 more points from the difference between level 46 and being 50. So if I had another extra 7 points and hidden air was full, I would then put the points in Dunedain Chieftain and go with the army defense to jack them up. Now next season, um, we're we may or may not. It's really highly likely we're going to be playing another faction like Erebor. So what will I do with Aragorn and Gandalf the Grey in a scenario where I don't have Lothlorien? Well, it affects Gandalf because I won't have March Wardens, but I'll just literally fill him. Like I'll front load the front of the battle. I'll put like 5,500 sharpshooters. I will do so much sharpshooter damage that it will be stupid. Like I will literally butt fuck people in the first 2 rounds of a match with Gandalf, and that's what instead of this balanced Gandalf that I'm throwing at you right now, where he's gonna do a bunch of damage to you early with the sharpshooters, but then still come online with the March Wardens and hit you throughout the course of the battle. I'm not going to have that balance in his attack. I'm not going to do as much damage as him. With him, I might not be pulling 350,000 damage in a battle. I might be doing only 250 to 300,000 damage in a battle with him. With Aragorn, I'm gonna still be doing the knight build, but let's say we're doing tactics evolved and we have to fight like some sort of a light side opponent. In that scenario, if we're playing like Erebor, then I'm going to just throw Iron Warriors on him, and I'm still going to let Aragorn go to town. It's just which tank are you going to be using with him? That's how I think with high damage comms. What tank do you want to pair him with? I don't care I'm not trying to get any damage out of the units themselves. Whatever damage the units lend towards a fight is just a bonus. I'm relying on Aragorn for all the damage. And how do I enable him? Well, the Iron Warriors are really beefy and they're going to do quite a bit of damage as well. So I don't think anything is really going to change with his build so much. Um, I might take the Superior Hallbark off of him and potentially give him something like what I have on Eowyn here, which is or quilted armor. But we'll see. I'll have to play that by ear. We have to learn what the seasons, the missions are going to be for Tactics Evolved. Assuming we do Tactics Evolved, it's likely we're going to do Tactics Evolved. Um, Probably a 99% chance, but you never know. Something might shift. People don't really seem interested in doing War of the Ring again, just because this was so easy, and a lot of players actually missed fighting light side opponents and want to go back and do something like that, but they don't necessarily want to go back and do a rebuilding glory. So the tactics evolved, even though it might not necessarily be. It's not. I guess it depends on your point of view, but you want to be a guinea pig every season, trying to go through new content every season. They're not giving you any information about what the new season's going to be. They just give you this sprinkle, this like trail of breadcrumbs, and you don't get to really know for sure what it's like until you're actually in there and testing it, which is kind of annoying. But anyway, back to the Commanders. One of the big things that shifted for me during the course of the season was Celeborn. I was hoping I was going to get Aragorn's Reputation 10 accessory and replace this Heath Lane. I was going to take the Heath Lane and I was going to put it on Treebeard, so then he gets extra heals on top. But instead, right now, he's just diddling with this fiddle here, which is cool for sure. I mean, it helps him. It helps speed up the ants. It helps the army speed. It boosts up his focus. Focus is huge for Treebeard, and I'll show you Treebeard in more detail in a moment here, and show you some pretty wild reports I had earlier today. It was a weekend, so we had Glory of the Hero or whatever it is, Heart of the Hero, and so we had dragons and stuff like that we could fight. So I have some funny reports to share with you with him. But anyway, the R10 accessory for Aragorn didn't happen because Rohan ended up getting Weathertop, which is the last requirement for me to get Aragorn's R10. Unfortunately, as you can see here, here's the events. So Um, it's very, very easy to do. Just unlock cavalry, militia, like cavalry and hunter unit lines. It's very, very easy to do. Defeat 10 mobs of level 25 or higher. Just sweep. It's really, really easy. And then the only other requirement is to occupy Weathertop. So as soon as all that happens, I'll have even star. Well, now I'm low on the mithril, but I'll get that. I'll pick that back up over time through tips and whatnot. Or if I need to, I can come over into the Matham and I can start spending gems on this each day, which I really kind of don't want to do, but it's temporary kind of pain point. But we'll get there. I'm just clicking on that. So since that didn't happen, I ended up getting Celeborn's R10 staff. And my Celeborn, if you watch the other video from before the season, my Celeborn in season 3 was my best hero. What I ended up doing, as soon as I got Gilgalad to R5, I stripped 3 pieces off of Celeborn, the dagger, the chest, and the accessory, the harp here. They used to be on Celeborn, buffing his elf damage so that he was doing some serious damage and able to mitigate a little bit of burn damage and stuff. There's the army damage from the Elven White Knight. So all of this moved over from Celeborn to Gilgalad, and it's been awesome. It's really been good. And then I stuck Aegis on him as well, so he's got a 50% chance during the first 4 rounds to gain stun and madness immunity. And that's been pretty clutch because it enables Gilgalad to be able to fight stuff like the Witch King or the Sauron or Grima, those kind of guys that rely on the madness to take your offense offline the first couple rounds of the battle. That can really make a difference when it procs. It's only a 50% chance right now. I just need to get more of these hunter guides in order to boost this up, but they're rare. But we'll see how it goes. Matham God's willing. He is my top, my number 3. So those are my top 3 heroes, or commanders, I should say, right now between Gandalf, Aragorn, and Gilgalad. I send those 3 somewhere, they're gonna wreck you. And an example of that in some reports here, like I was showing earlier, I hit a dude and I ran into a Sauron. I hit him first with Gilgalad, and he did this. And this is not a bad Sauron by any stretch of the imagination. He's got 447 focus. It's a pretty solid build. I mean, you could kind of scrutinize this bone mask should be leveled more. This is season 4. You would think that he would have this a little bit higher. It's not the best Sauron I've seen on this server, or in season 3 we encountered some really beast whale Saurons. But this is an example of something like what Gilgalad can do versus a Sauron, and then I followed up and smashed him with my Aragorn. Aragorn has actually done surprisingly well versus Sauron, considering he doesn't have any madness immunity of any kind. But he's been spanking Sauron because he mitigates so much burn damage that Sauron can't do anything against him. That's fairly significant. And I have some other reports. I would have to go digging to find them, but I have other reports from other fights with Sauron this season that shows that. Then the next fight, he comes up against the armored Sauron here, and he gets pretty smashed up a little bit. But you can see how much damage the knights just soak. It's so much damage, 216,000, 217,000 damage basically. These knights just really soak a ton of damage. It enables Aragorn to do a bunch of damage. And he took a mighty chunk out of Sauron here as part of a draw. And that was what enabled Gandalf to come in here and basically just knock this armored Sauron out with very minimal losses. So it was a fantastic 1-2-3 punch. The Gilgalad basically took out the Sauron. The Aragorn finished the Sauron and took a big chunk out of the armored Sauron. Gandalf came in, finished off the armored Sauron, and then got to, this guy, Agzog, who I guess maybe is like a Pather, or maybe he does some siege damage, I'm not sure. But just completely obliterated him. And then this guy's Gothmog is clearly a siege unit. Um, Although you would think he would have alchemists if he was going to be sieging with him, but he only had wraths and wraiths and berserkers. But either way, I mean, totally just smashed this guy. Like, this is one of the more lopsided um, reports I've seen this at this stage of the season. Kind of actually made me feel bad. They smashed that guy so hard. Anyway, back to commanders. So those are my top 3, and they're fantastic. And I will continue working to level, Gilgalad's gear up, finish off Aragorn, Gandalf's helmet. I'll probably use a similar build next season, if not the exact same one. With Aragorn here, at least versus Dark Side, it works. And versus Light Side, I might have to switch some things up. Like I said with Aragorn, I would probably just toss a bunch of Iron Warriors with him, with some War Rams to put the negative 50% defense debuff out there. Gilgalad isn't going to be changing at all, just getting better. And then Eowyn, as soon as I have the Mithril, I'll level this up. I think another one. I might wait and see because next season, if we play Erebor, I might end up deciding to spend that Mithril on something like Dwalin's axes, since I'll probably be using Dwalin and Gimli next season. Didn't even, all the thing that Dwalin has done in season 3 and season 4 is collect a bunch of dust, but he's got these axes which are pretty cool. I can level these up a little bit. I like these drums on him, and then these other two pieces can be, replaced with something better for him. So he'll do some damage for me next season, and then I'll probably use Gimli again. I didn't really use Gimli much this season either. I stripped most of his gear, like the Aegis helmet that's on Gilgalad used to be on Gimli here. And I was gonna basically dismantle this accessory to level up Aragorn's R10 accessory, but since that didn't happen, it's still currently sitting on Gimli. And then just I don't know why I put this. I think I put Knights on Gimli just to see what would happen. This will probably get melted at some point, and then this will definitely get melted as soon as I get another superior hauberk. I only need one more, and I can level the one that Aragorn is wearing up to a third gold star to make even more burn damage resistance, which will be really nice. But I like this hammer quite a bit. It's really good for Gimli. I am slowly but steadily making progress towards him becoming reputation 10. But I don't know if I want to add another reputation 10 item to have to level up that's a weapon. And also, he takes the purple mithril. So it's tough to come by that. So I'm kind of reluctant to do that. I'm probably just in season 5 just gonna keep this hammer on him. Assuming we play Airborne. So anyway, getting back to the conversation about Celeborn, I took his R10 weapon and I started leveling another quilted armor for him just so he can have some focus damage protection. Enjoy the benefits of the might and the focus because he's a focus commander. Speed is really not really the greatest thing for him, but it can't hurt, so why not? I left his Trapper's Hood on. I was thinking about putting that on Treebeard, but for now I'm keeping it on Celeborn because in addition to the fact that Celeborn makes all of his units madness immune, and most of them I think also stun immune, being able to dish out madness during the every 2 rounds can be something that can turn the tide of a battle if it procs. And then I ripped this off of Galadriel just to give him more heal in combination with the scepter and the focus and the army HP is good too. So that's how I built Celeborn, but he has gone very quickly in a very short period of time from being my top commander in season 3 to being my fifth commander essentially, fifth or sixth commander actually in season 4. Taking a step up here and going over to Eowyn, we talked about the shield. I won't level that again anytime soon, but I might. We'll see. She's just so good all around. She's just such a great You don't need her tier 4, the Marshal, or the Swan Knight to be effective with her. She does a really nice job, especially because I gave her the helmet that she's 100% madness immune the first 3 rounds. And also from her talent build here, all the mounted units are stun immune. So she's immune against she can she can take on Grima's. Like Sting has a level 50 Grima, and his level 50 Grima, he will use that to take out my Aragorn. His level 50 Grima shreds my Aragorn. He won't fight me unless he can get that matchup because he knows that I'm pushing Aragorn first in many situations. And what I ended up doing was fooling him, and he would use his Grima and thinking that he would be hitting an Aragorn, but then it would be Eowyn there. And even though my Eowyn's only level 43, she would stand up to that Grima. It's like the battle would be a draw in terms of losses. He would lose a few more units, but they would do more damage to my army. But being able to basically stop a level 50 Grima that's really well geared. Like his gear and his Grima looks just like my Gandalf's gear. To be able to put a stop to him with a level 43 commander was satisfying. I like this build on her quite a bit. It's purely focusing upon boosting the damage output of mounted units and healing and, and mitigating damage as much as possible between the Shield Maiden and the defensive stance. And then you've got the White Lady. There's your men damage 21%. This boosts might. Riding excellence mitigates damage from mounted units. So yeah, she's tough. She's a tough old bird. She's also my highest reputation at reputation 14. And I got the spear for her that boosts mounted unit damage a little bit as well. So I really like my Eowyn. She's kind of my number 4. Um, I really like using her and Aragorn as my scouts up front. If Aragorn hits and runs into a Grima or gets slaughtered by something due to madness or whatever, I might follow up with Eowyn if I think it's something that makes sense to do it that way. If you need a madness immune commander to follow up Aragorn, because Aragorn's I'm just gonna throw knights at you and hit with Aragorn. But if there's a Grima there, I'm gonna use Eowyn for the Grima because the way that I use Celeborn, he's too slow, and Grima is often paired with horses, so he'll like somebody like Sting, he'll see a Celeborn coming from a mile away, and he'll be like 17 tiles away by the time that Celeborn hits because I like to use Ents with Celeborn. I don't hit anything with Celeborn unless that player is not paying attention. Let's put it that way. So yeah, those are my top 4, and then we looked at Celeborn, which is like my number 6. My number 5 would be Treebeard here. So I got this gigantic hammer as part of the season pass rewards for the challenges, and it buffs large unit damage and attack a fairly significant amount. An allied army ignores 3% of target's defense. That's pretty good. So that, and then I put the massive breastplate on him, which pumps up the defense of large units, the Ents. So it's pretty hilarious to watch him go to work. I gave him Gandalf's hat here, the Grey Wizard hat, to jack up his focus a little more. And I also like this particular Gandalf's hat on Treebeard because of the courage ability you see there, which boosts the allied commander damage by 5% each round. It's really significant for a guy like Treebeard who does pretty significant commander damage. And I showed you this fiddle earlier, so that might change at some point if I can ever get my little grubby hands on Aragorn's R10 accessory. I'll plug in that Heath lane to jack up his healing. In terms of reports, I wanted to show you a funny report that I had with the dragon earlier today that I think really shows you the top end of what um, Treebeard can do. So I like this configuration: 60 Ents, 1,200 March Wardens, and 600 War Rams. The March Wardens are going to do some damage for you. The War Rams are going to apply that negative 50% defense debuff, and the Ents tank. And you can see the damage received. Ents number 1, and then in terms of the offense, you see from a unit perspective, the March Wardens put out 64,000 damage. The tanks themselves put out 37,000 damage, and the War Rams, I don't care how much damage they put out. They're just there for that negative 50% defense debuff. And then you see Treebeard himself put out 104,000 damage as a comp, and then with almost 15,000 healing. So a really balanced attack in term when you look at like the report overall, you see commander damage 104,000, soldier damage 118,000. Um, so pretty nice. That's really what you see across the board whenever you're fighting with Treebeard. It's just that the numbers are a little bit jacked up in this scenario because he's sweeping, so it's different, and it's a dragon, so all of the numbers kind of just got jacked up a little bit more than usual. When I'm sweeping with him, like level 35 and level 45, level 40 mobs, I'm usually running into Wraith Kings, and he is, I think, when you're fighting evil, he does a really good job of only really being able to counter Wraith King. Against just about anything else evil, he gets kind of shreked. Um, and I bet versus light side, he would be an absolute terrorist versus light side commanders. Because really, the only thing that counters Ents is burn damage. They mitigate poison, so you're not going to get anywhere with a Haldir or somebody that does a lot of poison damage because the Ents just eat poison for lunch, and they soak an enormous amount of physical damage. There's healing going on top of that, so it's really hard to kill anyone, and they do tremendous damage. So I'm really looking forward to testing him more and leveling up his gear more, because this is just a patchwork job with him. I had some golds laying around, so I've got his weapon in his chest to 3-star. I got the hat to 2-star. There's no gold stars in any of that stuff, so there's a lot of work left to be done, which is why he's my 5th commander and not say my 1st commander, because obviously my top 2 commanders have their gear virtually all maxed out. That's why they're my top commanders. So he's a work in progress. I like him. I'm going to continue using him, working to level his gear, testing him in different scenarios, and I'll let you know how that goes. The next commander that I really have, if I had a 7th, would be Haldir. I didn't do anything really with him through the course of the season. I gave this Elven Dirk, its 5th star and a 5th gold star because for some reason, the game just loves to give me a ton of Elven Dirks, so I used them. I threw the harp on him. It's really good. Um, he does really good damage. This helmet doesn't do anything for him. If I had Bjorlings, this helmet would be more viable, and I would do something to try and level it a little bit. But I don't have Bjorlings unlocked this season. I have Ents and Bree Riders. I use the Bree Riders on Eowyn, and they seem to be a really good pairing with Cavaliers and a couple of War Rams. And with Haldir here, I use a couple of Cataphracts and Heralds up front for tanks, and then a bunch of March Wardens in the back. If I'm not playing Lothlorien, he probably will end up being benched, but we'll see. Or he'll be a just a really fancy ass pather for me, because Sentinels don't do nearly the damage as March Wardens, but you can get by with it. So that's it. That's really it. I don't have any other commanders I can talk about. I have 7 at this point. Gimli and Dwalin, I guess, would be 8 and 9. I'm probably not going to run Galadriel because I stripped her helmet for Treebeard. I stripped her accessory for, I believe it was Celeborn. Yep, Celeborn. So she's out of the running for the time being. Um, Hirgon is just purely a commander that I use for siege. I throw I put gear on him just to have gear on him, in case somebody tries to do a thing where they stick an army in something we're sieging and he hits my siege, so then I don't lose all of my siege in one hit. And that has happened several times over the course of this season and last season, really any season. But he's a fantastic sieger with this logistics ability, and then also he increases march speed from his skill, which is something you don't see in very many commanders' kits. So that's all my commanders and kind of how they ended up evolving through the course of the season. Just to recap, my Gandalf didn't change really at all in terms of gear. I followed the exactly the same plan that I was laying forth in Bag End in a previous video some time ago, and it's worked, I think, with pretty good success. I'm really happy with my Gandalf the Grey. I would consider my Gandalf the Grey to be my main hero, not just this season, but probably just about any season going forward, because you can virtually play any faction with him and he's going to be effective to some greater or lesser extent. As long as you have access to sharpshooters and cataphracts, you can do major damage during the first 2 rounds. Depending on what your T4 is, I might throw a sprinkle of Iron Warriors in with him, or maybe just outright replace the cataphracts with Iron Warriors. We'll see next season. Probably be a mix though. I'll probably be just 700 cataphracts or 750 cataphracts and like 5,000 sharpshooters and maybe a couple of Iron Warriors in there. We'll see. If we're playing Erebor, we'll see. For Aragorn, no change at all. Like I said, his gear hasn't really changed. Just upgraded the Superior Hauberk and ran him with Knights, and he was a thug for me. He's fantastic. I loved playing with him all season. The Gilgalad, I mentioned how everything with him evolved from ripping all of Celeborn's gear off and putting it on Gilly once he was R5. He's been an excellent commander for me. I experimented with a couple of builds with him as well that I just wanted to talk with you about real quick. I previous to having this set up, all the points that were in White Council and its skills were dumped into Chaotic Retreat. And if you were, he was doing really good damage output with that, but he was also losing quite a bit of units, and I was having to heal a lot and replace troops through conscription a lot more. Now that I have White Council, he's still doing really phenomenal damage even without the chaotic retreat, but I'm losing less troops. So I think this build is a smarter build to go, especially during a campaign where you're only fighting evil. Now next season, if we're doing a campaign where we might be fighting evil or good, I might be switching back and forth because White Council isn't going to do anything against a light side army. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I just wanted to call that out. I went through my Eowyn, went through Celeborn and all his stuff. If we're not playing Lothlorien next season, he's probably going to be a fancy Pather for me or benched. We talked through Treebeard. He's my work in progress at the moment. Gimli is a work in progress. We'll see what I end up doing with him next season. If we play Erebor, Gimli and Dwalin will probably be something that I try to use, but to what extent and how much gear am I willing to sacrifice from, you know, other commanders to make them work? We'll have to see. That's something that I'll address in a later video, show you what I do when I do it, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I hope you found this video to be interesting and insightful in some way. Leave a comment, pop some feedback, shoot me a message in Discord or in game if you have any. MC 9699, I believe. I don't know what we call it anymore. $sign MC dollar. No, it's not a $sign. It's a pound sign. If you're an older person and you know what the pound sign on a telephone is, or you can call it a hashtag. MC hashtag 9699. That's my Discord handle. I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know I've talked for quite a while, so thanks for hanging in there with me. Happy Father's Day again. Take care of yourself.